Lintz Green railway station was on the Derwent Valley Railway branch on the North Eastern Railway near Consett in County Durham. The railway station opened with the rest of the line on the 2nd of December 1867 and closed to passengers on the 2nd of November 1953. The line was closed permanently in 1963 and was dismantled, with the station site becoming part of the Derwent Walk Country Park. The station was infamous at the time for its unsolved murder of its station master in 1911. Lintz Green Station should have been the perfect spot for a quick robbery. It was very isolated, midway between Newcastle and Consett on the North Eastern Railway's Derwent Valley branch in County Durham. There was not much there. The station master's house, and about 400 yards away down behind the platform, 4 railway houses occupied by platelayers. The station itself had 2 platforms and a mere shelter on the downside. It was situated 2 miles from Rowlands Gill and a mile from a tiny hamlet called Lintsford. The insignificant station was surrounded by trees and shrubs and was well hidden from sight and sound. Why the station master met his death on the night of Saturday the 7th of October 1911 remains a mystery to this day. Theories arose, but no satisfactory explanation was ever found, despite it being one of the most intensive murder investigations ever carried out in the northeast of England. On the night of Saturday the 7th of October 1911, the 60-year-old station master, George Wilson, was shot when returning home after closing his office at the station. Although he did not die instantly, when questioned, Wilson was unable to say who had shot him. The night in question was very dark, moonless and cloudy. 3 men waited at the station for the last train from Newcastle: Joseph Wilson, the station master, Fred White, the booking clerk, and the porter, John Routledge. There were no passengers, but that was not unusual. Routledge had finished his duty and was waiting for the train to take him home. White had extinguished the lights up on the platform, leaving a solitary lamp burning in the booking office across the tracks. The down platform was lit, and the train was late. That sometimes happened on a Saturday night, as it was one of the busiest in the NER's schedules, running extra trains taking late-night travellers home from the pubs in Newcastle to the surrounding mining districts. When the train eventually arrived at 10:42 p.m, 4 passengers alighted: Samuel Elliott, Robert Wales, Thomas Middleton, and Charles Swinburne. Swinburne waited on the platform for Fred White to finish his duties before accompanying him down to the narrow lane to Lintsford. Elliott, Wales, and Middleton made their way to the east end of the platform. They crossed the line and took a footpath to their homes at the lower Freyside, a mile away. Wilson handed the driver the token for the single-track section just to the west of the station, crossed the line under the bridge and entered the booking office. White extinguished the lamps on the down platform, crossed the tracks and joined the station master in the booking office. Wilson wished White good night, left the office by the back door and made his way to the 50 yards to his house. White was in the process of locking the booking office when he heard a loud shot. Accompanied by his friend Swinburne, he ran out of the office towards the direction of the shot, but because of the pitch-black night, they could barely see to run. But they hurried towards the house, where they saw a light burning in the stairhead window. Bertha Wilson, the station master's daughter, emerged from the gloom shouting, "Fred, they've shot my father!" White and Swinburne were at this time petrified by fear, and help was at hand. Middleton, Wales and Elliott had stopped a little distance down the path to Lower Freyside to obey a call of nature. They too had heard the shot and quickly returned to the station. Middleton stumbled across the body of Joseph Wilson, just inside the gate leading from the rear of the station house. He and Elliott carried the still-breathing body and laid him on a sofa. Middleton was well experienced at handling bodies, as well as being traffic manager at Lower Freyside Colliery. He was also a trained and skilled ambulanceman. He knew what to do in an emergency, but all of his years of experience had not prepared him for the sight of sheer horror that he encountered in the light of the kitchen that night. The body was covered in blood, still alive, but only just. Middleton loosened Wilson's tie, gave him a sip of brandy, and said, "Mr. Wilson, speak, say who did it." However, according to the accounts of the time, Wilson gurgled and expired. In a panic, White ran to the booking office and made 2 telephone calls, one to the police station at Consett and another to Dr. Boland at Burnopfield. Within the hour, Superintendent Dryden arrived from Consett and the doctor from Burnopfield. The next morning, which was a Sunday, saw feverish activity. Chief Constable Morant appeared over the bridge at the west end of the station. While Dr. Boland conducted his post-mortem, the police investigation began. The doctor concluded that Mr. Wilson had been killed by a single bullet from a large caliber revolver. The police search discovered the bullet 15 yards from the body. The motive appeared to be robbery. There could be no other, for Mr. Wilson did not have an enemy in the world. Anyway, everyone knew that he was a creature of habit. Every night, after the last train had gone, he would take the day's earnings from the booking office to his house in a leather pouch. Every night except this last night. For some reason that night he had taken the money to his house after the last train had gone, an hour earlier. The inquest was opened on the Monday morning in the first-class waiting room. Coroner Graham of Consett heard evidence of identification from Thomas Shotton, Mr. Williams' uncle, and Dr. Boland. He then called Fred White, who gave an outline of the events leading up to the murder. Ironically, the room in which the inquest was held was decorated with certificates awarded to Mr. Wilson as a winner of the North Eastern Railway's Best Kept Station Award for the last several years. Mr. Graham adjourned in the inquest until the 8th of November to allow the police time to conclude their investigations. By now, over 200 police officers were involved in the biggest murder hunt in the North East for many years, but to no avail. The local press became restless because there was no progress and no clues. The Durham County Advertiser was particularly scathing. Why were their bloodhounds not employed? Surely they could have picked up something. Everybody knew that Lintz Green was a mining district, populated by rough elements. Surely somebody local must have done it. On the Tuesday after the murder, the sun shone as crowds turned out for the funeral. They brought Joseph Wilson's body out of his house and laid his coffin on 2 chairs outside of his front door, just a few yards from the scene of his murder. The Reverend J. Griffin Hodson from Hexham conducted the service, while the station masters of Rowlands Gill, Scotswood, Ebchester and Shotley Bridge acted as pallbearers. Hundreds of local people attended and followed the cortege the 3 miles to the cemetery at Leazes. The police hunt continued. They drained a well at the rear of the station buildings, scoured the countryside for miles around, questioned hundreds. Then suddenly, on the Wednesday, something happened. At 9 p.m. they made a positive move. Inspector Gargan from Consett, Detective Inspector Tate and Detective Sergeant Gibson from Newcastle called at 13 Kirk Street in Byker in Newcastle, as they wanted to interview Samuel Atkinson, aged 25, the relief porter at Lintz Green station. Family members present said that he was not in. Could they call 10 minutes later? Not satisfied, the police officers forced their way into the house, climbed the stairs and found Atkinson asleep in the bed in the kitchen. The questioning that followed was to be of great significance at the subsequent trial. With their suspicions well and truly confirmed, the 3 officers arrested Atkinson, detained him overnight in the cells at the police station in Pilgrim Street in Newcastle, and conveyed him by car to Consett the next morning. Atkinson was placed on an identity parade in the yard of Consett Police Station in Parliament Street. He was clearly identified by 3 of the 4 witnesses called as having been hanging around in the station not that long after he claimed to have left work and gone home. The 4th witness was not sure, but felt that it could have been him. The same evening, Atkinson was accused of the murder of Joseph Wilson before Magistrate Potts at Consett Police Court. His solicitor, Mr. Clark, closely questioned Superintendent Dryden about the circumstances of the arrest, and especially at what stage had Atkinson been cautioned. During questioning, it emerged that the suspect had not been cautioned at all, and that any statement made by him to his whereabouts on the evening in question must be inadmissible in court. Despite this, the magistrate remanded Atkinson in custody for a period of 7 days. A week later, Atkinson appeared again before Consett magistrates when Mr. Clark returned to the question of the lack of caution at the arrest. Atkinson's statements to the police at Newcastle and Consett could not be introduced as evidence, and without them the police had no definite reason to charge him with the murder. However, a further remand was granted, this time to Assize Court in Durham on the 9th of November. The day before Atkinson's appearance at Durham, the resumed inquest into Wilson's death was held at Temperance Hall in Burnopfield. After hearing the evidence from the doctor who attended the scene of the crime, he concluded by saying, "It is a murder most foul, most horrible, but murder will out, and sooner or later the halter will be placed around the neck of him who committed this dastardly act." He finished the hearing by hoping such a satisfactory conclusion would be reached in Durham the next day. The following day, Atkinson was brought into the dock of the court at Durham, where, much to his astonishment, Chief Constable Morant appeared, saying that he was to offer no evidence against the accused and request that Atkinson be discharged. Mr. Clark, for Mr. Atkinson, then requested a sum in compensation for his expenses in preparing a defence that was now to be unnecessary. He had no criticism of the police. They had performed their duties well, but this client had suffered great distress and deserved compensation from the court. This plea was rejected and the case dismissed. That was to be the end of the case. The police quite deliberately stopped the investigation, and after a while the rumours and gossip subsided. Joseph Wilson's brutal murder was forgotten, and the guilt or innocence of Samuel Atkinson was never satisfactorily resolved. The scene of the murder remains. Wilson's house is very much as it would have been known. The platelayers' cottages across the way remain, but improved and extended under the new private ownership. But of the station, very little is left. The Derwent Walk passes through it, the platforms just visible to either side, but the buildings, the booking office and the waiting rooms are all gone. There are also rumours locally of the ghost of a tall man with a lantern wandering around the station where it used to stand. Would you be brave enough walking through where Lintz Green station once stood in the dark? What North East true crime story would you like to hear next? Let us know in the comments below.